Lilith. In the Lovecraftian mythos, the Black Man of the Sabbat is known as Nyarlathotep, the highly intelligent trickster god who teaches mysteries that lead to evil. He is also the consumer of souls and has 1,000 faces and forms. Nyarlathotep, called the Chaos that Creeps, is a messenger god who acts as an intermediary between the dark gods and their worshippers here on Earth. The mission of the Illuminati is the construction of a global government whose power can never be challenged, and this ambition is called the New World Order. The means to achieve this dream lies in the use of a series of artificially created conflicts, ever increasing in scope, that is designed to guide humanity along a predetermined path. Humans are creatures bound by conflict. In our everyday lives, the names of neighbors and acquaintances populate our list of enemies. In times of war, individuals in the enemy nation comprise our enemies, while those very same neighbors and acquaintances are now our friends. And if aliens landed and threatened the very existence of the human race, any human from any nation are now your friends, with the extraterrestrials playing the role of the enemy. The human race needs conflict, not love, as a binding agent. Such is the hole in man's heart. The Illuminati has long used the hole in man's heart to guide and manipulate it. A series of self-induced and well-planned conflicts will bind just the right people at just the right time as to justify a global police state in the minds of the masses. The beginning of these conflicts involves the collapse of the Western economies, with America's economic plight as perhaps a trigger to global economic depression. The US dollar is overproduced and destroyed by devaluation. Many other currencies will follow suit. It has been arranged so that no nation is self-reliant regarding all of its needs, and the necessary trade this creates helps to make the need for a global arbitrator even more concrete. America and the West will continue the trend towards socialism, as money from the government will become increasingly necessary for its citizens and businesses. The U.S. stock market will plummet, and this event, coupled with a terrorist attack, will bring America into a state of emergency. This coming terrorist attack will be actualized by elements within the U.S. government, and will most likely be nuclear or radiological in nature. Cities like New York, Chicago, and Washington, D.C. being in the most danger. Similar events may occur in other Western nations, leading to the implementation of martial law in those countries as well. The United States will be forced to abandon its dollar and use the economies of Canada and Mexico as a crutch, giving rise to the North American currency, the Amero, and giving rise to the North American Union itself. These three nations will be seen to merge in ways other than economically. Their political, the infrastructure, and even the militaries of the United States, Canada, and Mexico will come under a single governing body. This will, of course, render the American Bill of Rights null and void. By this point, America's middle class will be nearing extinction. Keeping the peace will require the U.S. military to intensify its role as a police force. The Western governments will criminalize dissent, perhaps claiming the move to martial law is temporary. Dissenters will even be branded psychotic. The media will be under strict control, not the indirect manipulation we find today, but control through government decree. Large numbers of innocent people will be labeled terrorists and rounded up in mass arrests. These people are unlikely to be heard from again. These already existent camps, often called FEMA camps, will abruptly spring to life with dissidents, victims of natural disaster, and those who are useless to the economy. There may also be many kidnappings during this time. People will be frightened to utter a word of discontent, as informants and wiretapping will create an atmosphere of fear. You will witness crowd control and riot control work itself into an art form. Microwave and sound weapons will disperse the discontented crowds. The American people must be relieved of their firearms before the New World Order can ultimately succeed here, and a great push to severely limit firearms and ammunition will help to choke the supply until they are finally in a position, or have an excuse, to make possession of firearms illegal outright. Internet 2, the new internet which is on the verge of worldwide implementation, will allow the ruling class to completely seal the common man from the truth by limiting him to only the controlled press. There will be no pretense or expectation of freedom and privacy on this new internet, because it will be known that this internet is tightly regulated. This will allow the governments of the West to shed their final threads of transparency. This new internet will also serve as the backbone for a global economic structure. New forms of identifications, such as retina scans and microchips, are soon to be required for travel and to enter corporate and government buildings. Purchases will also come to rely on such forms of identification as the move for totally electronic currency begins. Atheism and other beliefs lacking spirituality will continue to rise. The people of the future only concern themselves with the material. You will witness strange new practices in the Christian, Catholic, and Islamic churches. They will begin to resemble festivals and marketplaces more than places of worship. Those religious people who are unwilling to liberalize their principles will be pegged as dangerous fanatics and fundamentalists. As life for the commoner becomes increasingly unbearable, he seeks to use drugs to escape from it. The depression he attempts to banish is the result of a healthy person living in an unhealthy environment, not the reverse. And since taking a pill, smoking dope, or drinking alcohol is easier than changing the world, this is exactly what he does. The way of life lived by those in the future is completely foreign to the human spirit, and entertainment and drugs will maintain control over the frustrations that build in the human heart. The blood games, like those seen in Rome, will return and be used to channel the frustrations of the people who live under ever-escalating tyranny. My guess is that the reality shows of today are merely serving to bridge the gap between those who are watched and those who are hunted. Mass media, especially TV and the movies, will be used to spread propaganda and desensitization. Using subliminals, magic, fear, and chemicals, the Illuminati will continue to interfere with free moral agency. Chemicals causing sickness, submissiveness, and infertility will be found in the food and water. Medications resulting in pliability will be forced on children. Cancer will be the new way to die. TV, clergy, movies, and schools will be the vectors by which highly advanced mind control techniques will be delivered. Vanity and fear will be subtly doled out on every show. You will see the global arbitrator or global government depicted as the solution. Evil men will be praised and placed into positions of power. The good will be silenced, murdered, and consistently demoted. The individual will grow estranged from their family and friends. The children will be distant from their parents, and families will splinter. The distinction between the genders will fade as homosexuality becomes ordained and androgyny becomes fashionable. The Illuminati will continue to promote a gender war, constantly increasing the gap between the genders to the point where no marriage is safe and no relationship is sacred. Both genders will find themselves surrounded by images of beauty whose requirements few could fulfill, and this will further instill frustration. Loyalty will become pragmatism, faith will become practicality, and affection will be relegated to the symbiotic. In this future, the adults will act like children, while the children act like adults. Not even genetics is left a quiet front in this war. because whole generations of crop plants will be ruined by genetic manipulation. There shall be a day when the trees bear no fruit, and the skies bear no rain. Even people who were born with certain traits will be euthanized like weeds. The masses, growing ever more materialistic, will begin making superficial choices regarding their mating partners, which results in the altering of the very gene pool of the human race. Eventually will come war in the Middle East and East Asia. The Middle East and the Far East will serve as the major theaters in the coming World War. This global conflict will likely be initiated as a smaller war between America and her allies and rogue states like North Korea and Iran. Israel herself may engage Iran, while the South and North Koreas finally take to war. These smaller conflicts will soon draw in all the other world powers, namely China and Russia. Proposals involving the weaponization of space will be expensive, wasteful, and may further incite tensions between the superpowers. The Western nations will naturally side with America, and, although I'm not sure of Russia's role, China's role will surely be adversarial to America in the coming World War. This World War will crush the human spirit and will play a major role in the masses' acceptance of global government. Even though the deliberately spoiled environment and the phony global warming crisis will continue to empower global government, in truth, only a devastating war could justify the dissolving of nations. This war is not likely to have a clear winner, but instead will exhaust all the parties involved, the superpowers in particular. Such is its purpose. In the midst of devastation, and at the height of despair, the human race will finally submit to a single authority.